At 2 a.m., my phone lit up. Joann was frantic. "My son is in the hospital. Send $22,000 right now or he'll suffer all night and be stuck with the whole bill," she cried. I answered slow. "Call his real father." I hung up. I went back to sleep. Next morning, the police called. My world flipped. What they told me kept me standing still. I smelled smoke in my chest. I knew a truth was coming and it would burn everything down. Houston in summer has a hum. Air conditioners sigh like old women. The street smells like church smoke and barbecue. Our block has kids on bikes until dusk and neighbors who say your name like family. I live in that rhythm. I'm Benton. I'm 40, tall. I keep my body tight. I keep my voice calmer than the noise. Joann and I had our routines. Morning coffee on the porch. She liked her mug chipped on the rim. I liked how her curls caught sunlight. She worked part-time at a boutique. I handled the accounts. We cooked on Sundays for my mama and cousins. We showed up for each other at funerals and graduations. We kept secrets small, petty. That was our life. In the house, the lights were soft. The couch sagged where we watched late movies. The kitchen smelled like garlic and lemon on Wednesdays. Her perfume hung on the linen closet. Little things made the house ours. Her laugh in the hallway felt like a bell. Her hand in mine felt steady. I watched her sometimes. I noticed the small edits she made to herself. A new lipstick, a different laugh at a joke. I told myself life was changing. People change. I told myself to trust. I also listened for quiet things, a phone sliding face down, a door closing a second too long. Those were tiny skips in our record. That night when she called at 2 a.m., the house was still as a held breath. The AC rattled. My dog at the foot of the bed was asleep. I felt a weight I couldn't name. I walked to the window. The streetlight looked like a halo. I hung up and felt the halo crack. Something was off. I didn't know it yet, but the air in the house had shifted. I slept with one eye open. The next morning would be the first page ripped from the book of us. The days after the call were strange. Joann acted like nothing had happened. She moved through the kitchen like a dancer avoiding a puddle. Her phone sat on the counter with the screen dark. When it buzzed, she slid it face down like she was hiding evidence from daylight. Her laugh had a new edge. It was light but clipped, like someone trying not to cry while smiling. I asked small things first. "You good?" I would say. She'd smile and say, "I'm fine, baby." Her eyes would dart. Not to me, but past me, like she was reading a script she didn't want me to see. She started going out more. Not to church events or neighborhood potlucks, but to late dinners and boutiques downtown. She answered when she wanted, and when she didn't, she let the phone go to voicemail. One night I found an extra receipt in her purse, a hotel name I didn't recognize. The printout smelled faintly of perfume. Her fingers trembled when I held it. She made a joke. She said she'd met a friend from art class. I believe in giving space. I believe in privacy. But I also know the small truths. The phone vibrates under a pillow for a reason. She began to guard her bag like it contained a secret weapon. At family gatherings, she was distant. My mama asked if everything was okay. Joann smiled and hugged my mama, but her eyes were different. I felt the cord loosen between us. A woman in the neighborhood would pass and wink at Joann like they shared a confidence. That wink lodged in me like a splinter. I started to watch patterns. New clothes bought with cash. Late text messages that started with one word or an emoji. A perfume I didn't wear on our date nights. She took longer to answer questions about bills. Small changes in the ledger, a subscription here, a transfer there. It could be nothing. That's what I told myself. But nights told another story. I would wake and hear her talking in the living room. Her voice was low and urgent. Once I heard laughter that didn't fit our house. Once a man's voice under the hum of the television. I stayed in bed. I listened. I didn't move. I let the moment pass like a thief in a dark alley. Each whisper added a brick to a wall I didn't yet see. I tried to be patient. I tried to be fair. The red flags stacked themselves like dominoes. Each small thing, a face-down phone, a hidden receipt, a late return, felt like someone placing a new mark on a map. I followed the map in my head. I asked myself if I was being paranoid. I told myself I was overthinking. but the knot in my chest would not loosen. And then one evening she left her laptop open. The screen glowed in the dark. A name blinked in a chat window. It wasn't a friend. It was a lie. I shut the laptop and walked away. I kept walking until the room blurred. That night the air changed again. I knew I had to look closer. I remember the bedroom light low like church at night. The house was quiet. I was supposed to be asleep. My dog shifted on the floor. I went to the kitchen for water and froze. Her laptop was on the table. The screen glowed like an accusation. A chat window was open. Names and messages flicked by. My hands shook when I reached. I read 2 lines and felt my stomach drop. There were plans, dates, money. A name I didn't recognize as an uncle or friend. The tone was familiar in that private way that made my skin crawl. Laughing faces, promises, a promise to take care of something that sounded like a favor but read like a transaction. I sat down. My breath came out in short pulses. I tasted metal. My heart felt like a drum in my ribs. Joann was singing in the shower. Her voice floated through the house, oblivious. I watched the screen rewrite itself. There were photos, a document, a PDF of an ER bill with a name that wasn't ours. My mouth went dry. The room tilted slightly. I recalled the call at 2 a.m., the money she demanded, the panic in her voice. I felt cold and hot at once. I thought of the receipts, the hotel printouts, the odd transfers. It was all there in the pixels. Names matched bank transfers. Phone numbers matched the unknown hotel. The proof sat like a mirror I could not ignore. I heard steam tap against tile. She finished her shower and stepped into the bedroom with a towel, water beading on her shoulders. She smiled like a woman coming home. I stood up slowly. My hands were steady now, but my chest was fists. I held the laptop like a slow fuse. She asked, "You okay?" Her voice was soft and unknowing. I looked at her and saw the curls stuck to her neck. I looked into those eyes that had once been a harbor. "You good?" she asked again, lighter this time. I put the laptop on the bed and pushed it toward her. The screen faced her. I watched her read. Her face went through a series of motions. Confusion, denial, then a hand over her mouth. She backed away like a woman who had walked into a glass door. Her knees gave, and she sank to the floor like breath leaving a balloon. She cried, not the small, embarrassed cry, the one that makes the walls lean in. She said things that sounded like litany. "It's complicated. I needed help. I was scared." Her words tumbled and fell apart. I felt my own voice come out thin and quiet. "Who is his real father?" I asked. Her eyes fixed on mine, and there was no answer that fit. The house was full of things we never said. In that moment I felt torn. I felt rage. But more than that, I felt a clarity that hurts like truth. That night, I realized everything was about to change. I looked at Joann and knew the life I knew was over. The only question left was how I would move through the wreckage. I did not explode. I did not scream. I sat on the porch and breathed Houston at night, the distant bass from a neighbor's car, the smell of jerk on the air, the soft clack of cicadas. I made a plan the only way I know how, quietly and with numbers. First, I gathered proof. I printed documents. I took photos with my phone of bank statements, messages, receipts. I labeled them. I backed them up on a thumb drive and put a copy at my cousin Ray's house. Ray, been my brother since childhood. He taught me to keep witnesses. I also copied everything to cloud storage under an alias. I am careful with paper. Paper history can disappear. Digital history follows people. Next, I took control of the money. I moved savings into a separate account only I could access. I changed passwords. I called the bank and arranged alerts. I set up automatic transfers that Joann didn't know about. I left enough for her to live and nothing for her to burn through. I transferred titles and documents where I could. I kept all the gestures small and legal. I am not reckless. I am deliberate. I played normal. I hugged her in front of my mama like nothing had happened. I smiled at neighbors at the barber shop. I worked my morning shift like a man who had not been split open. Nights were different. I sat with the glow of my phone and the smell of cold coffee. I sent anonymous tips to a private investigator I'd once used. I called lawyers and listened. I learned the slow language of paper and law. I asked questions without answers. I kept my face quiet. Friends noticed. Ray asked if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said. They assumed a midlife crisis. A few cousins smirked when Joann posted parties on social media. People take sides before they know the whole truth. I let them. I knew the map of relationships on our block. I knew which neighbor would speak for me and which would whisper for her. I used that knowledge like a chess player uses pawns. There were nights when I felt like a traitor to my own heart. I loved Joann once. I remember the way she watched the sunrise once on a church retreat. I remember her hand on my chest the night my father died. I allowed myself grief. But grief can be an engine. It made me steady. It made me cold when needed. I planned a public, controlled reveal, not to humiliate for sport, to reclaim truth, to make sure the ledger was balanced. I wanted to protect my name, my family, and my peace. I rehearsed words in the car, watched my tone in the mirror. I prepared documents in envelopes. I printed copies and had witnesses ready. I kept calm like a man waiting for a train. The plan was slow and surgical. On the morning I chose, I felt different. The hoodie fit the same, my hands the same. But I was not the same man who had answered the phone at 2 a.m. The hurt had refined into resolve. I walked into the day with a quiet around me. I kept my voice low. I was ready. I picked a night that was ordinary. No reason to dress it up. It was a Tuesday. Joann came home with takeout in a brown bag. She smiled the way she always did when food arrived. The kids, hers and ours when they were with us, were at a cousin's house. My mama had left early. It was just the two of us in the living room with the TV muted. I sat across from her. The house light made a soft pool. I felt the evidence in my jacket like a weight. I put envelopes on the coffee table. I watched her face. She asked why I looked so serious. I told her, "We need to talk." I pulled one envelope toward her. Inside was a printout of a bank transfer. Another showed the chat messages. Another showed the invoice with the wrong name. I didn't scream. I said each thing slow. I let the words land like stones. "You called me at 2 a.m. for $22,000, I said. "You sent me a photo of an IV. You asked me to save your son and told me to send cash. I found the receipts. I found the hotel bookings. I found messages that say pay up and don't tell." Her hands went to her face. She sobbed, then scrambled. "It's not what you think," she said. Her voice cracked. She reached for me. I let her try and stopped her hand with a small, firm palm. I did not want the touch. I wanted truth. She told stories that sounded like excuses. There was a man she said she trusted, a situation that got out of hand. The money, she said, was for a loan she thought would be repaid. She said fear made her act. She said she panicked. Her eyes begged me to stay. She said she had been trying to fix it quietly. I showed her the paper trail. I named dates. I named amounts. I named the time stamps. I watched the armor fall. She collapsed into a chair and lashed out with words. She accused me of not seeing her, of never asking. She said I had been distant. I felt the old hurt resurface. I did not let it move me. I told her, calm and low, what I had done legally. I told her about the accounts I moved, about the copy at Ray's house, about the lawyer I'd consulted. I told her the plan. Her face turned from pleading to something like horror. She realized then she had already lost what she'd used as leverage. The weight of our community press hung in the room like a fog. Black folks talk. We hold marriage as both covenant and contract. She had broken that trust. The cultural code matters here. Her misstep was not just personal. It was public by the way secrets breathe out in our block. She begged, she cried. The confession did not absolve her. It only made the wound real. I spoke of consequences. I spoke of fairness and restitution. I told her I'd involve the police and the civil courts if necessary. She nodded like a woman who had been caught mid-flight. She knew it too. She knew she had already lost. We went to the lawyer together. It felt like being led into a courtroom long before the judge's gavel. Paperwork was signed. Joann's side deals were exposed. The courts moved slower than a heartbeat. But in time, judgments came down. She lost claim to assets she had hidden. The house was retitled in my name alone, with set allowances made for the children's schooling and care. I made sure the kids were protected, their names clean, their needs met. That was never a bargaining chip. The community reacted. Some people whispered, some stood by me, others looked at her and shook their heads. My mama held me and said, "You did what you had to do." Ray stood at the back of the courtroom like a sentinel. There were family meetings and church calls. People expressed disappointment and relief like weather changes. Life changed. She lost more than money. She lost status and the easy smiles that bought her nights downtown. She lost trust. She lost friendships that were built on gossip and convenience. She had to answer to people she had used as ornaments. Regret found her. It was not the sort that gets fixed with apologies. It was a quiet thing that followed her like a shadow. I did not dance on her grief. Revenge was not spectacle, it was correction. I reclaimed what was mine. I repaired credit lines. I settled the children's accounts so they would not carry debt like a cross. I closed accounts she'd touched and opened new ones with locks. I taught my children the value of truth, not vengeance. Sometimes I drove past the house we used to share. I would see a light on, a silhouette behind curtains. Sometimes I felt rage. Sometimes I felt mercy. Mostly I felt quiet. I repaired small things around the house. I sat on the porch until dawn and listened to Houston wake. People asked why I didn't make it uglier, why I didn't broadcast her downfall. I told them I don't need applause. I needed peace. The revenge I chose returned balance and dignity. It did not erase the hurt, but it made sure the lie did not keep living. That is a victory you carry like a clean shirt. It fits, it talks quietly, and it doesn't need to shout. If you find your world cracked by betrayal, remember, truth is patient but tireless. Hold your breath long enough to look clearly. Protect the children first. Keep witnesses. Move like water, slow, steady, and persistent. Revenge that heals is not shouting in the street. It is reclaiming your life with law, with care, with calm. I lost a version of love. I found myself again. I slept better. I walked lighter. If you are in that place, know this. Your peace is the prize. Guard it like a prayer.